Good morning. I should say afternoon. We're getting a little bit of a late start today on day 3 on the 6-speed swap Dodge Charger build. So today we are going to be, well, I guess I'll recap yesterday a little bit quickly. So we finally have the 6-speed stuffed underneath the car. There is no motor, front K-member, none of that under there, but the Tr6060 is hanging underneath the car. We're looking more for placement of the actual cross member and shifter inside the vehicle. So today we're going to be starting on Mr. Parker over there is going to be welding in the floor section where the shifter goes, and then we are going to be sticking the motor onto our lightweight front K-member, and we're going to be attaching the transmission to it and bolting that in the car for final placement. We want to make sure that the trans is actually in the correct place before we weld that in, because there's not much movement to be had in that floor or the actual shifter mounting point in that in the little cover piece. So we need to make sure that it's in the correct area. We're going to touch on this lightweight front K-member here quickly before we stuff the motor on it. You'll be able to see the motor and trans and all that stuff go together, but this is our lightweight front K-member. This is our third rev. We're about mid 20 pound on it, so it's going to be about 10 to 12 pounds lighter than a factory K-member, depending on which model year you have. The newer style cradles, the 11 and up style cradles, are a little bit heavier than the older ones. So just a look at that is what you're able to do with this cradle. One, the rear cross member bar down here is actually removable. A big thing that I know is being a racer and wanting to be able to inspect motors or things like that, to be able to drop an oil pan in these cars, you have to remove that factory K-member to be able to get the oil pan out, or you have to pull the whole motor. You won't have to do that anymore. You can now just pop these 2 bolts that hold the rack and pinion in. The rack and pinion will lower down. You can remove the 4 bolts that hold that rear cross member in, and now you have free open access to the oil pan to be able to drop the oil pan out without removing the motor, without removing the K-member or any of that stuff. It was just a feature that we kind of saw needed in the marketplace, so that is going to be a one benefit to this K-member, besides the weight aspect of it. The other thing is, as well as you can see here, these are going to be your motor mount locations. Now, to run this K-member, we base this K-member off of the earlier factory cross members, which is this one here. I don't have my 11 and up one to show you, but as you can see, these are the factory motor mount locations in this K-member. We based it off of that. Now with that, it requires you to run different engine block brackets, which will be the earlier engine block brackets. They will all still bolt up 5761, 6462. The engine block brackets will physically bolt up to any of those motors. Those will be provided with the purchase of the K-member, as well as we are going to be running a more solid, the earlier style 6-speed engine mounts. And I can show you over here, these more solid compared to the newer style engine mounts. These will be the engine mounts that you will be running. Now you can see, obviously this bracket looks a little bit different than an OEM one. These are going to be a custom bracket that will be provided on the newer style motor mounts that you will use. Those brackets are meant to be able to put the motor in a stock location. Our K-member is set with 1.25 inches of backwards mounting in the K-member here. So the actual factory mounting points would be about here. This is so you can put the motor in its factory location, or you can move the motor back 2.5 inches in the vehicle. This was a big deal when we were designing this, to be able to push the motor back as far as drag race cars any type of road race cars, anything like that. People that are serious about racing, it's going to be a big benefit to be able to move the motor that far back in the car. Weight distribution reasons and things like that. So you will get the custom engine mount brackets to be able to relocate the motor in factory position. When you see us putting this in here now, the motor is going to go in a factory location. Possibly one day down the road, we may end up pushing it back. Now with the automatic cars, it's going to be a lot easier, as the stick cars are going to be a little bit tougher because of the actual mounting location of that shifter coming back 2.5 inches. There's going to have to be some modification done to the floor. Almost similar to what we're doing now, you'd have to cut out the floor and move it back. Moving it back will also require a transmission mount, which we are in the process of. Once we get the K-members out for sale, we will start working on transmission mounts to be able to relocate those going backwards. We're looking more on doing the ZF 8-speeds, the possibly some NAG 1s, and the TH400s for the drag race guys, that a lot of the guys are going over to the TH400 configuration. So we'll be making different cross members for the trans, so you can work. The drive shafts will be essentially up to you to get custom drive shafts made. We're going to work with a local well-known company here. I don't want to say the name quite yet until we kind of figure everything out, but we will be working with them, that they will already have plans in place to be able to make drive shafts that are 2¼ inches back. But here's a little walk around of our K-member. Still has all the factory mounting points in it. Like I said, here's the sway bar ones, engine mounts, the lower control arm and lower front tension arm. They're all in factory location, so everything will just bolt together like it should. So now let's go ahead and get started. We got a late start today. Let's get started. Let's get the motor in the cradle, trans attached to the motor. We are not going to be installing clutch flywheel or anything like that. We're waiting on a pilot bearing because apparently nobody has a pilot bearing in the city for the car. So we are going to give it kind of a dry fit. We know it's going to have to come back out because we have to do some welding, but we want to get it in there to make sure that everything is located right. Motor mount's tight over here, bolted to the K-member. Parker's getting his tightened up on this side. I thought I was. We're almost ready to roll this back over by the car. Pull that trans out from underneath the car that we stuffed up there last night. Bolt the trans to the motor, and for the first time they can go in together. They will be coming back out, but at least for now, they will go in together. Okay. Now we can move. Oh, that's gonna be close.
Getting her there.
Probably needs to heavily go this way.
And about, yeah, well, I mean, maybe that way, especially forward. Crank your fucking wheel that way. Oh, you hope. That's gonna be pretty damn close. I don't know. Hard to know until we're closer into the hole.
Yeah.
You want to watch it, or you want me to watch it and you drop it?
I don't know. We gotta pull your lock on that side, pull the spring off. see, we have the engine, new cradle and trans installed in the car. There's no clutch or flywheel or anything like that in there right now. We're mainly doing this for lining up purposes of the shifter, so we can re-weld the floor in and put the cover plate on top of it. We needed it in its actual resting position to do so. So that's where we're at now. So I guess we'll get started on test fitting and welding the trans tunnel.